Back in 2011, I did a week of guest lecturing at UMSL, and since I was still a young maverick back then, I was content to surf the couch of an old friend who happened to be working there after attending the same university. We were still in our late 20s, so we were holding down jobs and being fairly responsible, but still staying up until 3 a.m. on the weekend, playing stoned Wii Sports until we got hungry enough to want to eat. At which point, we'd head over to the local 24-hour Walmart to grab whatever looked good. He worked late shifts, and almost all my lectures were scheduled for the afternoon, so we stayed up almost every night, either just hanging out, watching movies, or playing Wii. Then, on the fourth night of our little ritual, my buddy gets home from work, we smoke up, play some more Wii Sports, and then made our way over to the Walmart to get some food. We're walking up and down the aisles with a basket, throwing in pizzas and wings and whatnot, but then, when we got to the snack aisle, we found ourselves in a minor disagreement over which chips to buy. We basically ended up standing there having some dog-brained debate on which Ruffles were the superior flavor, when I start to notice this dude at the end of the aisle on our right. And I noticed him because he wasn't looking at the chips. He was looking directly at us. You know when you can see someone looking in your direction, but you don't want to make any eye contact with them, so you kind of just check them out in your peripheral vision, but refrain from meeting their gaze? It sounds oddly specific, I know, but I'm sure some of you will know what I mean when I say that. I didn't look directly at this dude, but I also knew for certain that he was looking at us, not just a glance either. He was staring at us. I turned to my buddy and I was about to say, "Get a load of this guy," when I saw a second dude standing at the opposite end of the aisle, who was doing the exact same thing. Now, I did end up making eye contact with this second guy, purely by accident, but he only glanced at me for a second before I recognized that he wasn't strictly looking at me. He was looking past me, at the first guy I had spotted, who was standing to my right. And that's when I turned back to the original dude to see if he really was checking out this other guy and not me and my buddy, and lo and behold, he was indeed looking at this seemingly random dude. Keeping in mind that I'm just completely toasted at this time, it took me a second to realize what was going on, and that there weren't just these two random dudes staring at me from each end of the aisle. They were having some kind of weird staring competition, and at first I didn't realize just what that meant. But the second the guy on my right reached into his waistband, and I saw this flash of jet black against his bright red boxers, everything I'd been slow to pick up on hit me all at once, and I just remember dragging my buddy to the floor as the shots started popping off around us. I instinctively tucked my head in and squeezed my eyes shut after hitting the floor, so I didn't see anything of what happened next. All I heard was the shots, or more specifically, the crazy echoing they made as the sound waves bounced all over the store. Then, while the shots were like whop, 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 just this weird sound, I had my buddy in my left ear screaming, "What the F? What the F and F?" And we just lay there until everything finally went quiet, ears ringing, and by that point my buddy had gone quiet too. Probably one of the most terrifying moments of my entire life, right there, thinking one of my best friends in the entire world had been shot dead. Thankfully, he just finally decided to shut up and stop screaming, but that moment of thinking, "Oh God, please no," probably one of the worst ones of my entire life. I remember just helping my friend up, and then we saw one of the employees running for a fire exit, and we followed. And then the next thing, we were in the parking lot, hearing one siren turn into two and then double again, and then before we knew it, there were like half a dozen cop cars all pulling into that Walmart parking lot in twos and threes. The parking lot was just completely filled with blue and red lights as the cops ran into the Walmart through the front entrance. But by that point, I think both shooters were long gone. I don't remember seeing any blood either. I mean, not that we were looking, but the point is, I'm not sure that they even hit each other. And I read later that you don't even start gushing blood after being shot, that it sometimes takes a second for the bleeding to really kick in, depending on where the wound is. So, maybe they did hit each other and I just didn't see any of it. I actually did a disturbing amount of research into small caliber shootouts after that whole incident too, and all under the recommendation of the therapist that Yushai provided me with. They were great providing me with paid leave, as I'm not gonna lie, being in public places was pretty nerve-wracking for a while after that shooting. The thing that really got me was how lucky we'd been not to have been hit in the crossfire. And I'll put it this way. We had to talk to the cops afterwards to give them a description of both shooters, so we got a pretty good breakdown of what had actually happened. I guess these two gangbangers managed to pepper that entire aisle with 14 bullets that went everywhere, but then somehow, by the grace of God, neither of us were hit. It's still something that I think about from time to time. Like whenever I drive past a Walmart someplace, it's guaranteed to pop into my head if I ever have to visit one for any reason. And I always wonder what would have happened if I hadn't spotted the guns in time, or if we hadn't been so lucky in regard to where the bullets ended up.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. I started my career at Walmart from cleaning the aisles and arranging stock, and then slowly moved my way up to becoming the manager at the Walmart. I was told that I will be managing the new Walmart at a local town in Arkansas. I was pretty excited about the job, and I wasn't aware of the locality or the city people, but it was a massive pay hike for me, and even more, the company was providing me good insurance and housing facility, so I wasn't the one to pass on such wonderful opportunity. I was aiming for the corporate office to be the next thing for me. I knew in order to move ahead, the corporate office is going to be the next big thing for me. The new job was pretty easy for me because I was managing the place, and instead of taking orders, I was giving them. The house was pretty big, and I was quite sure that it is going to be an easy run for me. My day-to-day job was managing the employees, and at the end of the day, I was to check in the registers and gather the team up to discuss things about the accounts and plan things out for the next. So by the end of the night, I was the last one to leave the building. Good thing that the company gave me a car, because there was no such thing as public transportation in that place. Even though the town wasn't very big, traveling from one place to another could get very strenuous because of the place being dark and covered with mostly forests. So a car was much help. And since I was the one to close the place at night, I was the last to leave the building. First few months, I never really noticed anything strange about the place. But then one day, it all started to come in right in front of me. I started noticing details that I wouldn't rather do. There was this weird freakiness in the parking lot of the Walmart. It started when I was late one night for the closing of it, and there was a figure right around the corner where the parking ends. I looked at it and said, "Sir, the store times are over. Please move away from the spot." And as I yelled it across the other side of the parking lot, the voice replied, "All right, I'll be out of your hair in a bit." And I didn't really make much of it, and I left. I came back the next morning knowing that there was a man there lurking in the corner. I decided to go check the corner out to see if anything is out of the ordinary, and there was nothing, so I figured the guy must have left or something. The day went by smooth. There were no problems. The day went on without any issue. And then, as the night came in, we discussed the plan matched the sales, and I was the last as usual to close in the door and lock in the facilities. And as I walked downstairs, I saw that the same figure was yet again lurking in the shadow, and yet again I said, "Sir, the store times are over. Please move away from the spot." And as I yelled it across the other side of the parking lot one more time, the voice yelled yet again, replied the very same thing as yesterday. "All right, I'll be out of your hair in a bit." It was all very weird, but I think I was still not bothered by it a lot. It kept happening almost every day now. I would open up and nothing. During the day, nothing. And as the time got by and the evening set in, I waited for everybody to leave. And as I closed the door and decided to move on to my car, I once again saw the figure hanging out by the parking lot. and that it wasn't just one person anymore, it was two of them. I was becoming a bit of a habit for them, so I decided to change it and walk over towards them to make them stop lurking around in shadows in the corner. It is not very legal, and they can be held liable for the things they do in that corner, which was the property of Walmart. I approached them, and as I kept moving, the figures were getting dull and hazy, until I reached the very place where they were, and then they disappeared right in front of my eyes like they were never there. The thing that just got weirder, and then I moved back to the car and they were back. I was puzzled, and from across I said, "Guys, don't fool around too much." And the voice came back and it said, "Don't worry, Stuart, we'll move." I left at first. I thought I was being played and I realized they knew my name, so I figured maybe it is somebody from the office. So I decided to confront them in the store the next morning. I called in the meeting and asked them about whoever hangs around the spot after the Walmart is closed, and everybody said they don't hang around after the work. I asked Juan to check in the cameras and said that no one had been in that spot for weeks other than me just last night. I was puzzled by it all. Being in a new city and knowing nothing, I decided to ignore it and not dwell in the matter for long. I wanted to make sure that I am not the only one seeing this, and this time, I decided that Juan will close down the store with me, and I agreed to drop him off at his house, which was 6 miles away from home. We went back, and there it was, the two shadows standing right in front of us. I looked at Juan, and Juan looked right back at me. I asked him if he is seeing the same thing that I am seeing, and he agreed and remembered whatever God he believed in. He looked at me with a chill and said, "That could be shadows, sir. Anybody's shadows. Let us just leave before it harms us." I told him to calm down, and we got in the car and started driving away. Then suddenly a large thud was heard over the roof of my car, and I thought maybe something fell over us. I got out. There was nothing. I sat back in and saw the shadows were running towards us, and as I got in, one freaked out and jammed his leg right into the driver's seat and jammed it out with full power on the accelerator. And I remember I wasn't even settled and I was just half in when he did that. The car went blazing into the wall, and last thing we would remember was trying to get out of the wrecked car. I got out of the car, and then I saw that I was in the exact position I was where the shadows were. I was bleeding all over, and Juan had his neck broken. And then we looked into the distance. There was a shadow, again across the parking. And then it struck me. I was the shadow. It was me, the shadow was me, leading to my death. I realized it was death when even after the car wreck, nothing happened to us, and there was no pain that we felt. Because no matter we try, we were just stuck in the loop of the circumstances that led me to death. I was the shadow of my own death.
This happened last night, and honestly, I'm still a bit shaken up about it. I work evenings as a dispatcher in a medium-sized Midwestern city. I was driving home at 2 a.m. when I stopped for gas. In retrospect, it was stupid to have stopped at all. The gas station was poorly lit and empty of any other customers, but I knew the shady areas of town, and this was usually not one of them. As I was pumping gas, I noticed a middle-aged woman sitting on the curb across the parking lot. It was a cold night and had just started raining. The woman was not wearing weather-appropriate clothing and was drenched. When the woman saw that I was watching her, she called out to me from across the parking lot. My second of many stupid decisions that night was choosing to engage with her. I was worried for her, so I approached her to see what sort of help I could offer. "Hi, beautiful. I'm just trying to get home, but no one will help me. I'm trying to get into the city, but the cab ride is $60 and I only have $40. Can you help me?" I don't usually give money to panhandlers, but this woman seemed genuine. The weather was terrible, and my job centers around helping people, so I agreed. I told her I didn't have any cash, but if she would come inside with me, I'd take some money out of the ATM and give her a few bucks. I went inside for cash, but the ATM wasn't working. I apologized and told her there was nothing else I could do. She followed me back outside, idly chatting with me as I opened my driver's door to get in. Then, she got in my car I was too shocked to say anything. I sat staring at her as she buckled herself into the passenger seat. As soon as she got in my car, her demeanor changed entirely. She no longer seemed, for as much as she did, extremely excited and restless. "Just take me to my aunt's house. She can give me money," she said. Of course, alarm bells are going off in my head. Although my first instinct was to tell her to get the hell out of my car, my guts told me that would be dangerous. She'd already proven to be unpredictable and seemed to be high. I didn't know if she had any weapon on her while forcing her way into my vehicle. I thought it had the potential to elicit a violent reaction. "Where are you asking me to take you?" "Just start driving. I'll tell you when to turn." "Nope. If you want me to consider driving you somewhere, I need you to tell me where we're going." I said that with no real intention of driving her anywhere. "Don't worry, honey. I'm not a bad chick. I'm not going to rob you. Just drive." "No. What's your aunt's address?" As I was asking her questions, she got agitated. We still had not left the gas station parking lot. I considered getting out of my car and going to the gas station for help, but she seemed to know and be friendly with one of the attendants inside. Besides, I wasn't about to leave her alone in my car. Finally, she snapped at me and said, "Why are you asking me so many questions? I thought we were friends. Don't you trust me?" "I work at the police department," I said. "It's my job to ask these sorts of questions." She flipped out and started yelling at me about being a snitch, about trying to get her into trouble, just generally losing her damn mind. At this point, I'm more scared than ever. I just wanted her gone, but my instinct still told me to get her out of my car. I decided to take a risk. I'm not a police officer. I just work at a police department. Why don't I take you to Walmart and see if they have an ATM that works? My idea was to get her out of the car as peacefully as possible and lose her in the store. She liked my idea and immediately calmed down. I knew that the driving off with the woman in my car was incredibly risky, but it seemed like my best option at the time. As we were driving, she kept talking to me. Her thoughts were erratic, bouncing all over the place. It sometimes seems difficult for her to follow through with a thought, but this is roughly how our conversation went. "I'm glad we're friends now. I've had about 5 or 6 people trying to get me. I'm going to come to your work tomorrow so we can arrest them." "Okay, we can talk about it tomorrow. Tonight, you said you were trying to get home." "Yeah, honey. I'm really trying to get out into the sticks." "Sticks? I thought you said you wanted to get to the city." Yeah, I meant city. That's what I meant. That's why the cab ride's $40. It's far away." "The cab ride's $40? "Yeah, baby. You said you had $40. "I do, baby, but I have $40 for the cab ride." And then there was silence. "Are you sure you can't take me to my aunt's house?" "Sweetie, she lives down on Fuller Road." "That's not what you said before." "Oh no, baby, I'm sorry." "Oh, it doesn't matter. She won't give me the money anyway. Are you sure you can't just take me to the city?" It was terrifyingly obvious that this woman was utterly full of crap, because the details of her story were constantly changing. When we pulled into the Walmart parking lot, she finally got out of my car, only after I left first, and followed me into the store. I told her before we went to find an ATM that I needed to use the restroom. I planned to call the police from inside the stall, but she followed me into the bathroom. And that's when things got weird. She grabbed onto the crook of my arm and whispered in my ear, "If you don't have any money, that's okay. Let me ask you something, sweetie. Do you like being eaten out?" I told her no as forcefully as I could manage. Get into a stall, locked the door as fast as I could manage. As soon as I had a barrier between us, I said, "You know, I have some friends at the police department that could probably help you better than I can. I'm just going to call them and see if we can figure this out together." Again, at the mention of the cops, she began screaming at me, and I just kept reiterating that the police would help her. She snapped at me and she said she was going to leave and stormed out. But it wasn't over. I wanted to make sure she was gone. Sure enough, not 60 seconds after she left, she came into the bathroom and started banging on the stall door. Then she said something that scared me more than anything else. "Hey, come back to your car with me. I left my beer in your car." I blatantly told her no. I saw her get into my car, and she had absolutely nothing with her other than the clothes on her back. After that, she left the bathroom again and didn't come back. I waited a good 5 minutes before exiting the bathroom. I immediately found a manager who called the police for me. Thankfully, I was in a different police jurisdiction from the one I worked because I was mortified at how entirely stupid I had been for the whole night and would have died of embarrassment. If a coworker had responded, the officer that responded took my statement and advised me to be more careful in the future. He said that sometimes panhandlers turn violent, and that just recently there had been a woman who matched my description of assaulting the Good Samaritan that had stopped to try to help her. I learned my lesson on stranger danger, and I'm lucky to have come out unscathed. I'm glad my stupidity didn't kill me. So, fellow listeners, the next time you try and help a stranger late at night, don't.